Hey everyone, Jacob here from That Time We Woke Up in a Podcast and Had to Explain Manga, our heated adventures over analyzing manga we find interesting, otherwise known as the Over Manga Cast. This week we... Huh? Did anyone else hear that? Anyway, this week we read Sweet Home by Kim Carnby and illustrated by Hwang Young-chan. We read chapters 0 through 13. Huh? Is that a nosebleed?
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Over Manga Cast. My name is Sam, and as always here at the top of the show, we talk about our familiarity with the franchise that we read this week. For me, I think I'm actually going to leave most of my explanation to Jacob because it's his fault that I know this series in the first place. So Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, I have something to say this time. I've heard thing before. It's a miracle. So as it turns out, Sweet Home, first manhwa I ever read. I was really confused about the names at first. I'm not particularly culturally sensitive in that area, but I've learned since then. There were a couple of series that had been floating around that I kind of bumped into sideways via webtoon, and I got really big into reading webtoon, and one of the big series that came out, one of the majors, actually I think funnily enough, diverting it even further, I think Matt is actually the reason I might be the reason I know about webtoon, because he told me about Scoob and Shag. I think that's what initially put me on webtoon. I started checking out a bunch of series and Sweet Home was on that list. Oh boy, is Sweet Home an experience. It is a train wreck in so many different ways, all of them intentional, and I freaking love it for it. I read the entire thing. One of my biggest points of pride is I actually called a bunch of the twists before they were revealed, so yay! It made me feel smart when I initially read it, and my conspiracy theories ended up getting validated.
And Jake screaming about it is how I was dragged into it, and I read, I think at that point, about half of what was released at the time. I got up to Protein, which sadly not in this reading. So, moving on. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I have much less fervor than Jacob, but I might have actually been reading it at the time when Jacob got into it. I was also reading a lot of webtoon just because Scoob and Shag was good. I read a lot of I'm blanking on the name, but it's the one everyone knows. It's the Hades and Persephone thing.
Lore Olympus.
Lore Olympus, yeah. The the comic we've talked about and probably could never do an episode on, because how do you divide it into chunks?
How do you divide it into chunks? It'd probably need to go on Over Manga Cast After Dark, from what I've heard.
It's I mean, honestly, no, because they're in a party for like 100 chapters. So I
You know
don't
what?
know.
I've got a friend who's an expert on it. I'll ask her. But back on topic.
Yeah, so I want to say I've finished Sweet Home. I can't remember because I know I was reading it week to week for a while, and at some point I drifted off. I got pretty close to the ending, I'm pretty sure though.
All right, and Jay.
This is going to be completely new. No surprise here. I don't really read too many things on Webtoon. Remind me, when did this come out?
If I'm remembering right, it was like in the late 2010s, like 17, 18?
1797.
Yes. Yes. Good year. Yeah. I just was not that deep into Webtoon.
Oh yeah, it was October of 2017.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing then, but it was not this. Honestly, I am so unfamiliar with the franchise. I honestly thought when it was mentioned that you were referring to the older webtoon that was about like the goblins or something with the horns. And so I was very confused.
Are you talking about Homestuck?
Yes.
you know, there's a little bit of shared DNA there. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, so that's what I initially thought it was, and then obviously I found out it was not that. And either way, I had no previous exposure or knowledge of this series. I just read what was recommended. The end.
All right. And I know that often in this show we will ask for recommendations on things to go into. We're not doing Homestuck. whatever you were typing on overmangacast.com or to overmangacast@gmail.com, delete it. We're not doing it.
Definitely don't comment in and say we're going to do Homestuck. Because if you do, we're just going to take those and turn them into votes for Dragon Ball Super.
Whatever you do not.
All right, now that the reverse psychology has been thoroughly implanted in our loyal listeners, we can get down to the manhwa itself, which opens up with the saddest boy.
Oh,
Yes, the saddest boy.
There's not a lot of sad here because he's kind of a dick.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot of the sad is self-inflicted. Yeah,
I was about to say, Jake, it's like he is the saddest boy, and it's his own damn fault.
one of the things that immediately struck me about Sweet Home is, dear God, this protagonist is just terrible. Not in the sense that he's a bad protagonist, but in the sense that he's a deeply unlikable person.
Yeah.
And like there was something, the reason why I got so into Sweet Home is you have this absolute heel as the presumed protagonist. And then you have a bunch of other characters who are not like, they don't have the official designated protagonist marker on their character sheet. So they're all on the chopping block to potentially die. And especially in the earliest chapters, like there's this like, what is this story even about? Like there's the way it builds its dread is really good. And just like the contrast of, it's almost like the Hyun's awfulness is almost challenging you to quit before you find out what's going on, but you just can't. Or at least that's how it was for me.
Mine was this guy deserves every bad thing that happens to him, and a lot of bad things happen to him. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
was difficult for me was on top of this, it was just, well, as I shared with my co-host while I was reading this, it was very unpalpable for me just because I have difficulty with people who have suicidal ideations. That was, and it's partially probably because of my upbringing. It's just not something that should be, I don't know, tolerated.
It shouldn't be taken as lightly as he does.
Yeah, so that immediately was just it was very difficult to kind of just be like, why should I give a fuck about this person or really care about how the plot goes on? So I kind of had to push through it, but it was just kind of like, I understand where he is supposed to fit in plot wise of like, okay, this person is not, on the up and up. He's not your typical protagonist who wants to do good. He's not that great person. But I think, at least for me, it was like the next level of distasteful.
We are starting from the grimy
You're basically
bottom of the
trying
barrel
to
to build this character.
You're basically
Yeah.
asking me to sympathize. This is bad. I'm not going to say that, but I mean, you're basically asking me to sympathize with somebody who I think really needs intervention and help.
Mhm.
Not
That's kind of the
That's
thing,
not-
though. I don't think you're supposed to sympathize with him. I think you're supposed to loathe him, because
But
again,
I mean, like similar to you, Jacob, it's like if you loathe the main character, I have no reason to read this.
well, that's actually why I mentioned the supporting characters that we're gonna start meeting, because they're the ones that I was invested in the safety of. So it's like you combine all these characters who they're not the main character with his face plastered on the banner, so they can die. And then there's like, what is going on mystery. And then here is this like black hole of awful that kind of frames the rest of the bad things around him. I read to the end. I know how his character goes, as it were. There's a level of challenge. And like, Hyun turning people away. Yeah, I can see that. That's fair. He
Yeah,
is absolutely awful.
Yeah, I'm with Jay on Hyun's. Just God, this kid does not need to be in a apocalyptic situation. He needs some mental help. And as has been demonstrated on the podcast before, I also have a
Aversion to that.
an aversion to this sort of situation. I don't remember what initially kept me engaged with Sweet Home back in 2017, when I think it was mostly just Jake being like, dude, do it, trust me. And I'm like, okay.
I think it was a combination of my hype and then Sweet Home. Sweet
It d-
Home does introduce to you characters worth caring about. It gambles on having its protagonist be the centerpiece for the first like for a chapter 0 and then like a prologue chapter and then the first chapter before it really starts introducing you to the people you're actually expected to care about.
Yeah, I think the only thing that kept me from having the same like visceral reaction Jay did to Hyun's, because not to beat around the bush any longer, but in there's chapter 0 and then there's chapter 1. In chapter 1, Hyun puts in his calendar his plan to end his own life. And I think only my familiarity with that part of the storyline is what kept me from experiencing the same just sort of like visceral that Jay did.
Did we actually talk about what happens in the 0 chapter about how
We have not gotten to that yet. No.
like this guy's a piece of shit because
Mhm.
his mom's basically just begging him to get out of his room and come with them on a family vacation, and he just swears at her and says like, "What the fuck are you doing? I just want to stay at home and pretend I own luxury sports cars."
Mhm. Yeah, he's locked himself in his dark room, ignoring texts from his mother, who is standing outside his door as he is playing legally distinct, I think, Overwatch.
Yeah, and then like we see that's not even all he does though, is he'll also just waste time like writing fake reviews for cars he can't even possibly afford. Like
It's really
he's
weird. It's not even like he's necessarily trying to. I don't know if he's fully on board with trying to feign a persona of wealth or if he's like, I
It-
don't know.
Truth
I
doesn't mean anything on the internet, man. I'm really deep.
maybe, I don't know.
yeah. It doesn't even go that far is the thing. Like I don't know. Anyway, he doesn't go on the vacation. His dad really just spends an entire time driving, just ragging into him, going like that.
He's venting
He's
too, 'cause
venting because his piece of shit son swore at his mom and then didn't go on a vacation with them so he can stay at home on his computer. Like they don't know what to do with him at this point.
Yeah.
So
well, he's
and
also they say it like 100 times. He is 18 and he's quote unquote in high school, but he's obviously not in high school, but he's high school age, he's 18. He's basically I don't know if he's classified as an adult, but it's like, kind of
He's
like
a neat.
he's on that brink of like he's my son, but he's also an adult, but I can't really do perhaps what I would like to do to try to help him. I can't like
Mhm.
I don't know. It's kind of like he is what he is, but I hate that he is.
Yeah.
I hate the way he
At
is. Yeah.
some point, you have to accept that your child is a separate entity from you. And if that separate entity wants to just be a neat in the darkness, then okay.
One thing that I want to immediately praise Sweet Home about, and this is actually something I forgot about, the dad is really not just laying into Hyun, but also Hyun's poor mother gets a little bit caught in the blast radius of his rant for a minute. And Hyun's sister is like, hey, dad, that's not fair. She's trying her best. You know that Hyun's really the one at fault here. And he calms down. He's like, yeah, you're right.
For a character who's alive for half of a chapter, I really feel like the little sister, got a lot of characterization. I get the idea that she had to grow up very quickly in this dysfunctional household and needed to find ways to like talk dad down.
Well, see, that's the thing. Because he does calm down immediately, I don't even really think that the household's dysfunctional. To me, this is just a contrast of how awful Hyun is, because his family's freaking fine.
no, yeah, that's the thing. Hyun is the problem here.
Mhm.
He is agitating people and they are blowing up, and because he doesn't give a shit and is able to be calm, it looks like they're dysfunctional. But no, he's just a
They're
piece
really
of
just
shit.
stressed over him being awful.
Anyway, Hyun made the right decision because a truck rears into their lane and kills all three of them in a car crash.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, debatable considering the entire rest of the story, but yeah. The other thing that's notable is the truck driver had a terrible nosebleed whilst that happened. Presumably the whatever was causing that is the reason he swerved into the wrong lane.
Yeah,
Probably.
I remember that being like a big thing you yelled about back in 2017, Jake. It's just like, holy crap, I never noticed this.
Holy crap, he had a nosebleed. I'm like, yeah.
It implies the monsterization was happening to him, as we will get to later on.
It's sort of funny because, boy, that makes me feel a lot less smart because I don't remember missing that the first time around. It's pretty freaking obvious.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know when your horror movie or when your horror show is about that, like, yeah, that's foreshadowing, but like, yeah,
It's very basic.
like, oh, the haunted house. Someone drew a ghost in the window. Like, yep, it's a haunted house. I would expect.
Yes.
But yeah, so the parents are dead. And
Parents,
that
the
means
littlest sister are dead, so he needs a new place to live.
Yep.
Yeah. I then continue to not be able to sympathize with him because the whole funeral scene happens, and I literally want to kill him myself.
Does the funeral scene happen now, or does it happen in a flashback later?
He flashes back to it, but he goes to the apartment and then immediately flashes back to the funeral.
Yeah. It's sort of intermingled with him arriving at the apartment because the next chapter opens with him walking along a path. And then a weed whacker blade breaks, flings out and stabs into a tree, and he barely reacts.
Yep, the classic webtoon. We need to start a chapter with something very interesting and then end a chapter with something very interesting because we need to get people scrolling through it. Because the weed whacker blade is just an accident. Like
it's just a little Final Destination tease. I will say, this manhwa does a very good job of using webtoons format to its advantage. Like the paneling goes a long way towards emulating the sort of camera focused techniques of
a horror film.
The
tension that Sweet Home builds in its like explicit horror scenes is really good, and again is a thing that is designed to keep you engaged before Hyun goes through his much needed character development.
You're not going to start a chapter with flashback exposition because then people aren't going to scroll through your webcomic. So it's like, here's an attempted murder. But yeah, then the flashback to the funeral is just insane.
It's like, holy crap. Like, that meme of like my wedding and a dude in like casual outfit and then dude in a suit for some flippant thing. Literally, Hyun is the first image in that. He shows up to his immediate family's triple funeral, massive tragedy, in a hoodie, sweats, and sandals. Like, you fucking bastards. How dare you leave me such a pity inheritance? I ain't gonna live off of $2,000. What are you doing?
Not even for a second does he consider working. It's the funniest part. Like,
no, it's not even funny. I was pissed. Like, I was legitimate. I could not. I could literally abduct this guy.
What he does do.
Yeah, which is what he deserves. Yeah, no, I mean, see, this is one of those ones where it's like the phrasing in the full statement is important. I really like Hyun as a character. I loathe the little obviously, but the thing that actually makes him work for me is he has real problems that he proceeds to do literally nothing to solve. He could legitimately be a pitiable person that you could get behind, but he chooses to be awful instead. And this story highlights that at every opportunity. Like, this is your own fault, Hyun.
He is the poster child for something bad happened to me, so now that's everyone else's problem and I don't have to try and be better. Like,
because if he wasn't such a shit, I'm sure there would be people who'd be willing to help him. That's the thing.
Yeah. If he wasn't such a shit, we wouldn't have this story. It's kind of the problem.
And that is part of the tension of narrative. It's like, man, we really need this story to happen. Let's have the worst little brat imaginable.
No, who was it? It was March Comes In Like a Lion. Where
exactly.
It was that tier of just we need to force the plot. So I'm gonna literally have my paternal aunt say, "Oh, well, I guess you have to go to the orphanage."
Hyun deserves the March comes in like a lion family.
I was about to say, yeah, the extended family at the funeral start beating Hyun up and throw him out on the street. You know how badly you have to fuck up to get beaten up and thrown out of a funeral? Like,
it is a catastrophic level of disrespect you need to be doing.
also, Yoon doesn't pretend like he's a prima donna. He showed up to the funeral to yell at a bunch of corpses while throwing their wallets and checkbooks on the ground. Like,
He's doing it for attention.
yeah, like that's...
There's a cry for help in here, but like it's a cry for help which he then proceeds to refuse any actual help. He is designed to be as unlikable as humanly possible.
Exactly. And the worst part is, and this is me again, like putting the best on people. I'm sure they probably noticed when this first started happening, and they're just like, hey, how can we help? Like, I'm sure they tried to help and support, and he continually refused and continued to be a shithead. And now everyone's at their last rope, and that's why you get decked by your extended family at the funeral. Like, I feel like it didn't just come out of a vacuum here.
As displayed by his mom, standing outside his door, texting him.
Being there for him in the way that he wanted, despite the fact that he did not deserve that level of consideration. You know, and I wasn't sure when to point it out, but just because, like, I think it's worth noting, like, this idea that it's like, it's so obvious that people were there for Hyun and he refused help. Like, Hyun is a well-characterized little heel. Like he's a well-written character for his purpose within the narrative. And I think maybe I might also want to point out that there's a reason why it honestly, I don't think it makes me go easier on Hyun. I think it makes me more angry at him. But I was in not nearly as severe, like Hyun self-harms, for example, and I never even considered that. But I'd been in the kind of bad emotional place that Hyun is languishing in. And so, like, I understand why he's thinking that way. I get it on that level. But I also, when my support system reached out for me, I listened and I let them help me, and I chose to be better. And I actually, put in the work to, get out of that place. There's a level of, like, I want to deck Hyun too, in large part because I know he can be better.
Mm-hmm. This is partially displayed in, the opening of chapter 1, where the dude with the potentially murderous Final Destination weed whacker is Mr. Friendly Security Guard Man. Just the nicest guy. I honestly don't know if we ever learn what happens to him, but I'm sure he died in a very tragic way.
So, I don't know. I kind of got mixed vibes with him, whether or not he's friendly or just creepy. He toes a line there.
Yeah.
I got friendly vibes.
I don't know. He then, like, casually in the conversation, I think, is what made me think he's kind of a little creepy. He's like, yeah, everyone's so mean to the security guards. Like, well.
Are they mean to you because they hate security guards, or are they mean to you because you're a creep?
They don't like you in particular.
I see where you're getting with that.
I have hesitation on anyone who, upon meeting someone for the first time, goes, yeah, everyone else is mean to me. And I'm like, that's weird that you feel the need to get in on the ground floor of this opinion people have of you. Like,
well, I mean, not for nothing. There's parallels to Hyun in that. There is a level of like intentionality to that
and in just like the reading we did, there's a sort of informed character trait thing where security guard low-key might have saved the entire apartment building.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. There's ambiguity to it. Like, maybe he's a nice guy who's actually downtrodden, or maybe he's a creep who's only playing a nice guy, for the sake of it,
Mm-hmm.
The security office does have access to cameras in everybody's apartment, apparently.
Yeah.
That is weird.
I'm assuming that might just be a Korea thing, but
I mean, like, there's an air of voyeurism to a lot of Sweet Home. What is your inner thoughts? What do you actually want? How many layers are you putting up against yourself, let alone against other people?
Jacob, what a great way to phrase that. Because speaking of weird voyeurism where you press yourself up against things,
It's almost as if I did that on purpose.
Hyun moves in to his apartment. There's a weird thing where you know what? This is why I didn't like the security guard, because the security guard comes up and is like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about something. We had an issue with some construction going on, so there's kind of a lawsuit pending. So if someone comes over to get you to sign something, just don't sign it." And I'm like, well, no, maybe as a resident of the building, he should be privy to what you may have done wrong with the construction. But
Nah.
anyway, he finds out that his neighbor is a wannabe actress. I think she was coming home from a role, but she's not doing.
She's been going to auditions and she's been getting in the door but not getting the parts. And her mom is calling her, telling her to give up on her dream and come home already.
And the big thing about her is that she is following a very strict diet, constantly complaining about how hungry she is.
And Hugh knows this because the second he hears her in her apartment, he sticks his head up against the wall and listens to her. And then
because this place has soundproofing.
I was gonna say, this is yet another case where it's like, good job, Hyun. You made the decision that will make the audience hate you even more. God damn you. Where it's like, man, the soundproofing in the apartment is shitty. That is an unfortunate thing. Now I'm gonna listen to her showering. You goddamn little creep.
To be fair, he does shake his head and go like, "No, I'm."
Does he not have headphones?
No.
I have multiple pairs of headphones. Get this man some headphones.
He has to play his hentai at full volume on speakers.
Oh God, he's that degenerate. Is there any?
I mean, that is kind of what's happening in this scene. You know, Hyun above all needs two things. He needs headphones and some therapy stat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the manhwa does the thing where they have Hyun shake his head and go like, "No, this isn't right. I'm going to sit here quietly." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you did it at this point." Like,
the regret is okay, but maybe don't do it in the first place. But this is all a preamble to the introduction of our actual protagonist.
Basically. Well, one of the four who I'd say can fill the five. Most of the secondary cast could fill the protagonist role. It's the reason why Hyun is the way he is, basically from a meta-contextual perspective, I should say.
Yeah, because we are introduced to my two favorite characters, redhead girl and mobster man. He's not a mobster. Why do you keep
looks
saying
like
that?
it.
He's a
He
good
just
fella.
looks like it.
he just looks like that and might work enforcement and might have done shady things in the past.
If I'm remembering his backstory correctly, that ends up being quite funny. Yeah, we're also introduced mostly the music of another major character, Rocker Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, rocker girl.
They kind of write around characters' names for a while. There's a level of you kind of have to get to know them by their sort of like immediate first impressions. Gee, I wonder if that's part of the theme.
Yeah, because Hyun is subject to the bass guitar riffs of his upstairs neighbor.
Yeah, I was about to say the walls are thin enough that you can hear someone quietly talking to their cat. So Rocker Girl stood no chance on no one being able to hear her bass solo coming out of an amp. Like, speaking of people who should have headphones.
Yes. So you can plug your headset into your amp. So it's like literally. Well, later on it's explained that she's like, well, there was no one on either side of me, so I thought I was good, and I guess people moved in, and so I apologize.
Well, the person below her is the problem.
Yeah. Which I mean, like, yes, you don't know, like, he's not complained to you about that yet because he just moved in, but like, you should be able to figure that out. I mean, there's a lot of characters who these sorts of things is true for. It's like, you really should be able to figure out that this is a problem without someone telling you. Smoking of our totally not in the mob good fella ends up falling into that category. The redhead is going to complain to him because he was going to go to the roof to smoke because it's a non-smoking building. But for whatever reason, the
Nobody
door to the-
obeys that.
well, nobody obeys that, but also the door to the roof is locked.
Also, it's
Mhm.
Korea. That's why no one obeys that. I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah.
Our good fella immediately notices a lighter in the redhead's hands. You were gonna do this too. Don't you judge me, you little brat.
I'm not saying I identified with Rocker Girl for being a very loud person who is definitely disruptive in apartments. Matt, I would like to personally apologize.
I didn't live beneath you, so I was fine.
That's true, you didn't.
We're all gonna identify with one of the characters. The fact that mine is Hyun is just depressing to me in so many levels.
It tracks. It's you've got a type. Oh, who's this awful piece of shit everyone in the cast hated?
Anyway,
Ugh.
now that we have our main dramatis personae established, we settle into the true horror of this horror manhwa, which is that it is a zombie apocalypse, except mushrooms, except
We start getting into this, and one thing that Sweet Home's really good at is when like the way when something horrifies happens, the sketchy style it will take on, the like thick outlines, the facial expressions, and the deft use of the scrolling method of reading it as a webcomic.
it hits those notes.
It hits those notes so hard. And just from a perspective of the monster designs they're good. Like there are a lot of really cool ones. The way that they like interact with the characters, the set pieces they create. It's all good monster stuff. The thing that I love about the monsters in Sweet Home is no matter how big or small they are, every time they walk, it's stomp, stomp, stomp,
Mhm.
stomp. And what that does is it conveys the unfathomable power that these creatures have and how utterly outmatched you are. Full body tackles, nudge them. You cannot fight this.
Real sense of like density and physicality to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of growing up, I read a lot of like children's horror movies or horror books. Sorry. So for this group, I don't know if Are You Afraid of the Dark or Scary
Mhm.
Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh,
There was
the
there was a lot of the pitter patter and the thump, thump, thump.
Mhm.
So it was very reminiscent of that. And for me, that was where most of the horror was contained, of this unsurmountable force, and also added to some of the intrigue and mystery behind it, because you're like, what is this?
The other thing that I really like is they never go too far with how insurmountable the monsters are. There's always the sense that if you just figure out what their weakness is, you can get them. They are just vulnerable enough to give you a sense of false hope that you can find a way to stop them. That to me is an important factor, because it's usually a trend in video games, but the idea that the monster is completely unstoppable and you can't defend yourself at all, it means that your only option is to run and hide. But when you're just given that glint of maybe you can fight back, it's like, is the right call to fight back, or should I not try? And the ebb and flow of, I can find a way to directly deal with this thing. Oh, no, I can't. Oh, I've made a terrible choice. And, that back and forth is something Sweet Home is absolutely spectacular at.
Indeed. I really like the part where he played World of Warcraft and had to experience a whole bunch of people just kind of idling around inside of
Inside of a town. Someone had a macro so they wouldn't get kicked.
which, like, I don't know, maybe WoW in Korea is different, but you could stand around forever in Orgrimmar and nothing would happen to you. One way or another, Hyun spends a lot of his time just being a neat in his apartment,
To the shock of no one.
to the shock of no one. And when he finally gets hungry and has to go out and pick up his food package, his delivery of bulk ramen to his apartment, he finds that my package has been torn into and there's pieces of ramen missing. Who would do something like that? That is blood on the floor.
Yeah, he follows a trail of
Blood splatters.
blood splatter, and open ramen packages.
Guys, we don't know that for sure. Maybe someone just wanted that dry ramen with ketchup. Actually, it's Korea, so it'd be gochujang.
It's a lot of blood.
It's a lot. They like it spicy over there.
I like it spicy.
Look, I've been to enough Korean barbecue places to know that that is true, but no, that's fucking blood.
Oh, we should go to Korean barbecue.
We should. We should.
Guys,
Jake,
we're gonna
you're-
stop the episode right now.
We're going to Korean barbecue. We'll pick it up after that. Yes.
Okay, back to this manhwa.
We have a very effective horror scene where Hyun follows the path of destroyed ramen packets and blood to the girl next door, who, I don't know if we mentioned this, but like one of her big things is that she is on that extreme dieting grind. She is trying to maintain a improbable figure, and so she is paying extreme attention to her weight and effectively starving herself in the process. And so as Hyun makes his slow and cautious way into her now open door into her apartment, at the sounds of bloody chomping and slurping and it's really disgusting, he hears a twisted voice say, "Still hungry," as a collar with a little cat bell on it coated in blood is tossed aside, and a desiccated arm reaches to grab it, go, and then throw the now cleaned collar back into view. It is some real like 70s, 80s just gore, and I love it.
Back when they didn't give a shit about killing pets.
Uh-huh. That is a level of like cheesy horror movie gore that I am super here for. As much as I feel bad for the cat.
Yeah. Hyun's reaction is fair. That would be mine.
I think it's something that every pet owner should just come to terms with. If we are in a horror movie scenario, my pet will probably be eaten horribly.
By me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks.
Rip and dip kitty. But yeah, Hyun tries to.
What kind of dipping sauce?
It's ketchup, remember?
It's ketchup.
It's just ketchup.
It's just ketchup. Kitty is fine.
Hyun manages to escape back to his place and hears a knocking at the door. And in the most reasonable thing any horror movie protag could do, he uses the video doorbell to interact with the person outside, which appears to be, the girl next door, saying like, "I woke up, my door was open, my cat is missing, I don't know what's going on, I'm confused, I'm scared, help, help, help." And he's like, "Hey, can you show me your arm?" Because that was the only part of the monster that he saw. So that's the thing he wants to see as his confirmation.
Mm-hmm. And this is where the monster completely fucks that up, because obviously they're able to transform back. And I'm just like, you could have easily gotten this guy.
I mean, it doesn't go into detail in our reading section, but it is something that's pretty easy to infer just from this particular girl's monsterization. It's your id. You just do what you want in the moment, and
she is hungry. She has been starving herself, so she
loses her patience and just demands he open the door.
As her face is like elongating and she's bleeding from every orifice. As serendipity would have it, because Hyun has exactly enough luck to not die horribly.
Oh, if only he used that luck for self-improvement and not being a terrible little piece of garbage. We'll see if the story works on that.
Rocker Girl upstairs decides that now is the best time for a solo, which sends the monster girl on more fruitful prey. And here's where we actually get a bit of characterization for Hyun, because while he is very much willing to be like, okay, survive the monster encounter, someone else triggered it, Sure, it's my upstairs neighbor. Maybe I should warn her, but you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. I'm just gonna survive.
Dying right now.
I'm not dying right now. Why am I prying apart my Swiffer wet jet mop to make an impromptu spear and go out to? Why am I walking towards this? What am I doing?
I love the durability of this fucking Swiffer wet jet, that when you snap it, it turns into a viable spear and not just a plastic piece of garbage like every single Swiffer. Like,
I mean, hey, I feel like there's a marketing ploy in here.
Sweet Home, sponsored by Swiffer.
like you're watching this scene and he just knows instinctively to twist it and snap it, and the way he snapped it makes a perfect point.
Makes
like
a point, yeah.
Did I miss the part where he sharpened it? Nope, he's just really lucky. It's funny.
It is funny. I don't think we actually see him stab anything with it in our reading, which means it's untested.
It's probably not good.
But anyway, he decides to go out and it's like, okay, Rocker Girl is a floor above me. That means the monster probably went up the stairs. I just need to approach the stairs. Oh God, footsteps. Oh God, somebody turn on the light. Mobster man, you're not a monster.
Sam,
No.
I like how you narrated that scene in the 3 seconds it actually took in real time.
But it's a whole ass chapter in the manga, yeah.
It's like half the chapter.
Well, yeah, I love that about it, because it's the elongated seconds of doing something, pants darkeningly terrifying. Every moment feels like an hour.
It is to the benefit of the aesthetic. You're not wrong, Matt, but I'm also not going to dock the manga points for it.
Yeah, I think that's.
I won't dock it in this moment, but man, does Sweet Home lean into that sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah. But we also, Aaron cut with this, we also get a flashback to some of Hyun's tragic backstory. You can pretty much guess relatively everything about Hyun's past from this flashback. They do go into a bit more detail, but
I don't know. When I read this and then originally and now, I've got the same reaction of like, this is gonna be some K-drama nonsense about how he's not actually an asshole. Everyone around him was an asshole, and I'm like, eh.
Like you watch K-dramas.
No, I don't, because it's this nonsense. Like
everybody's so mean to me. I'm fed up with this world.
Except you're legitimately meant to take it seriously. And I'm like, okay, yep, good, yep, you got singled out. Good job.
I'm just saying, some people have their novellas. I have my K-dramas. Leave me alone.
This is to some extent going into my knowledge of the series in its totality. I like Sweet Home for doing, because we've read a couple manhwa at this point, and I 100% get get what Matt's talking about. Sweet Home never exonerates Hyun for his terrible behavior. Mm-hmm. There's a reason he's the way he is, but it never lets it be okay, which is something that I really respected about Sweet Home when I initially read it.
Yeah, but it makes me not really care that much about reading his backstory, because as you said, it's blatantly obvious where they're going from, even though they're not showing us the full story, but you can piece it together.
You can get the whole from those pieces.
And I believe that backstory is the exact same backstory in the other manhwa we read that we found out later turns into a boxing manhwa for some reason. I'm blanking on the name.
Lookism. Yeah, Lookism. I was thinking about Lookism too.
He has the exact same backstory where he tried to defend someone and then the bullies make that person turn on him. And then he has to move to Beverly Hills High School, which go listen to our Lookism episode. I have the exact same opinions.
Oh, it's some wacky nonsense. Sweet Home, on the other hand, is not wacky nonsense, because Mr. I'm totally not in the mob, I'm a good fella, sees the blood on the ground and the improvised weapon being held by this new kid in apartment 1410.
More importantly, the fact that the actress's door has been ripped open, and the way he's talking seems to imply he knows basically all the people who live in the building.
Well, wasn't it mostly empty, and that's why it's kind of like, oh, I didn't know new people moved in, you know?
Yeah, it's a new building is what they established. I think they kind of established that it was built up and then the area didn't grow around it, so it was kind of a bad decision. That's why it's kind of run down now.
Yeah, and that's why there were issues with the construction because it was
And,
pasty.
and that's why there's like spider webs everywhere because they've just had these empty units sitting. But that's also why it looks so weird in its neighborhood. It's just a giant rectangular monolith. But yeah. So yeah, my takeaway is that mobster guy was mostly like, "Hey, did you break into someone's room? Like, what's going on here, kid?"
When nature calls, sometimes you gotta do it. I said what I said.
Anyway, Hyun, he basically does the worst thing imaginable in this situation. He tells the truth.
I'm looking for did you see a monster? And the problem is because Yoon's so socially awkward, he can't talk without stuttering. So it makes him sound super guilty, but also he sounds super guilty.
And also, monster. Right. What are you talking about?
It does make the mobster basically just not take him as a threat at all because he's just like, wait, I was gonna punch you. What's going on here? Why are you crying about a monster? And then Hyun starts getting a nosebleed, and he's like, I didn't even hit you yet. Like, kid, come on.
Then Hyun passes out.
Is this where we get his little internal monologue, or is that the second time he passes out?
We get a bit of that here of
Either way, it doesn't actually pay off in our reading, but
yeah.
there's a little voice in his head that's telling him to go nuts and do whatever. We do get a little scene where Hyun gets on the. We can kind of contextualize that with a little exposition dump they do when Hyun gets on the internet next time. Jumping ahead a bit, and we'll pop back. Is that people are talking about like, hey, monsterization is a whole thing, and blah blah blah. People suddenly go crazy, and then one guy in chat says like, yeah, there's a voice. Does anyone else hear a voice? My voice is telling me to kill my parents. I could probably do it real easy. And then the internet being the internet, they tell them just like, shut up, loser.
If it's not about a trade, shut up. This is another one of those cases where sometimes a manga or a manhwa will just nail like the internet dialect, and Sweet Home does indeed nail it, where you get some of just the worst of humanity. It's well done because it's painfully realistic.
Yeah. Never change, internet. Never change. Or change.
Please
I don't know.
change. I want
I
you to
don't know.
change very much.
I don't know. I
Ugh.
enjoy it.
Probably better if you change.
Don't
But
change
yeah.
for anyone. Be your true self.
Sweet Home, everybody. Yeah, Hyun wakes up from having passed out, and he decides to load up a game. And I love how the first one he goes to is World of Apocalypse. We have Evil Gun, Hidden Attack. Like
World of Warcraft Apocalypse.
well also World of Apocalypse in this manhwa.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah.
it's not subtle.
But all the servers are offline, so he has to check the news and talk to people. And there's a video clip of the president of Korea, I assume, giving a speech and then getting a nosebleed and getting ushered off stage mid-speech.
Which is juxtaposed with a live stream of somebody going, hey guys, I found a monster in this alleyway. Let's get closer to see what. Oh god, I vomited acid on my face.
Oh,
Yeah.
peopling really hard.
But I think we did skip over a bit because it kind of switches perspective from Hyun when he knocks unconscious and pops back up and gets an exposition dump, and also just some fun gags. Because the dude dying as he's saying like, comment, and subscribe, and then the cameraman going like, oh yeah, he's dead. Yeah, we should stop filming. Why? What?
Wait, this will make a great found footage movie.
Oh, but
Yeah, bro literally says like, comment, and subscribe as his face is being turned into slurry, into Soylent Green.
That scene's intercut with the perspective switching to likable characters. God, there's like 5 people you would want to be the protagonist.
Yeah, we have Girl, we have Big Brother, we have Mobster Man.
So yeah, we cut into Rocker Girl rocking out. and gets a knock on the door from the actress's monster, basically. And she goes like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't realize there was noise." And she's like, "No, I'm hungry." What? What do you mean?
Let me in. Starving.
And then she starts knocking on the door. And by knocking on the door, I mean making a dent the size of a small person.
Uh-huh. It's like, this is what you would expect from, like, the ram of a police SWAT unit beating down your door.
And then you realize that's crazy.
I just really love the juxtaposition of Mobster Man, Sung. He goes and like he hears that a young woman was responsible for this, and he punches the door and like creates a dent in it with his own fist, compares it to the massive battering ram wound in the door, and he's like, "Stop bullshitting me!"
He feels so emasculated. Like, it's like, I could punch hard too. Like,
It's a weird way to feel emasculated. It's like, do you think I'm showing off to show off my strength? Is that what you think is happening right now?
Your weird sexism is making this horror survival situation a little complex.
oh, okay,
Right now,
hold on.
please
hold
Oh,
stop.
dude. I would
Weird
not say it's sexism.
Weird sexism about the 80-pound soaking wet actress punching as hard as the guy built like a truck. Yeah, that's
Also, like
Yeah.
literal,
sexism at that point.
that is not sexism. No.
You know what? Fair.
Poor Pyun will, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He ends up taking a lot of L's, and I can't help but love him for it. He deserves better.
He tries his best, by gum.
He does not deserve to get called a mobster all the time. He's just nice. He is a good fella.
Ugh. But yeah, they kind of have some adventures where Rocker Girl basically explains there was a monster that unlocks a connection in his memory banks, so he can go back to the previous scene and interact and use Rocker Girl with unconscious Hyun to unlock the next cutscene. He kind of has Rocker Girl just watch over Hyun for a bit, but then they end up going downstairs.
He is of the belief that he can go out into the apartment building and, beat up whatever baddies are there. So he leaves Rocker Girl to watch over Hyun, who has passed out at this point because of the severe nosebleeds from monsterization.
She actually, Jisoo is her name. She introduces herself to another character who we don't meet proper in this reading, but he's one of the many characters you wish was the protagonist.
Yeah, Christian guy.
Yeah, you'll come to find that he's one of the characters you wish was the protagonist.
She has an interesting little flashback where she is just going on the elevator to go out and run for some cigarettes, and she meets a woman with a stroller who is like, "Ah, yes, my sweet baby, isn't she so delightful?" "That is an empty stroller." "Yes, your child is very cute. Have a good day. I'll catch the next elevator. I forgot my wallet. Have a good day."
There's plenty of room. Get in here and we can talk about my baby.
No, I forgot my wallet and I need it
Don't-
for what I'm going to do. Have a good
Don't
day.
worry, I'll put my hand in front of the door and wait for you so we can talk. It'd be great.
I'm leaving.
Oh, okay. But next time we definitely need to talk about my baby.
Absolutely.
Actually, hold on. I accidentally had my foot in the door. It's still open.
What the fuck? Leave!
Be gone! Be gone, crazy lady. Be gone.
Leave!
She's not nearly that abrasive in the actual flashback. Matt is just matting right now.
It felt like it.
But yes, the point being that this lady's child was tragically killed in a horrible accident, and she is not coping with it super great, as is explained by...
Because it's... yeah, she's not coping with it because it's her fault.
Mm-hmm. And this is explained by random devout Christian guy.
Yeah, we in our reading we only meet him in this flashback.
He is a guy who is a devout Christian, and he is very happy to make some pleasant chit chat and go on his way because it is Sunday and he needs to go to church.
I was about to say, you probably know this person, and we know he's a devout Christian because every single panel he's in
has a cross visible.
He makes some reference to it. It's like, I'm a devout Christian, so it's Sunday, so I need to go to church. Don't you see my Bible?
He either has a cross or a Bible visible, or he is referencing Christ.
May
Oh.
God bless you this day.
It is God's will that that child died. Sure thing, Padre.
Okay, he doesn't phrase it that way. But
I know.
But yeah.
the problem of evil is something I just ignore completely. But yeah, so the entire point of this flashback is she's kind of walking through her neighbors and then passes Hyun on his way to go move in, and then basically completely misses the fact Hyun almost gets Final Destination in the background.
This manga really likes doing parallel storylines, and I really appreciate it for that.
Well, I mean that's why she's having this flashback, is she's remembering the day she met Hyun.
The day,
Saw
the day
Hyun
she
for the
first
first
saw him, and that lends some greater credence to when she is left to watch over his comatose form in his apartment.
Hyun's unconscious for a very long time, and we should probably be worried about that.
He's out for 2 days. Man has a nosebleed, passes out, and doesn't wake up for another 48 hours.
They do leave him for dead, to be fair.
Yeah, because what ends up happening is, whilst that's happening, Pyeon heads downstairs to see what the hell's going on, because they can't actually get security on the intercom, which is concerning. So the story moves downstairs, where they're trying to get the security office open, because every single entrance and exit to the building has been sealed, which is weird and concerning.
It's also weird they have this power. Like, what were they worried about in this neighborhood? That they have anti-riot gear.
We have shutters on every entrance. We can lock every door. We can seal down the roof. And what do you mean we can't find the security guy? I just love redhead girl's big brother, who, smile on his face, beatific as a saint, walks up with a fire extinguisher and
dragging a fire extinguisher. Welcome to the character. Welcome to the 5th character that you wish was the protagonist.
Please get out of my way. I mean, sure. Boom! As he snaps the handle off of the door.
He's also
I'm hanging out with that guy. If this ever went down, that guy. Hanging with
hell
that guy.
yeah.
He's also got the whole Brock thing going, where his eyes are closed underneath his glasses.
Oh, that's how you know he's trustworthy.
Yeah, no, big bro is pretty cool. Even when we learn later that he is an internet poster, he's still kind of cool.
I appreciate internet posters. They amuse me. Never change.
Good news. They got into the security office. They can raise the shutter.
Bad
just
news.
in time. Someone came up to the front door.
Hey, there's a guy. Oh, what the fuck is wrong with him? As it's this bulbous-headed guy.
Elongated.
Elongated.
Too tall.
Mouth, neck, torso splitting open vertically for a really long tongue as he's like,
Wait, hold on. Sam, are you telling me this guy's got a chest vagina?
How happen again?
Matt, I wasn't going to say it. I wasn't going to say it. I hope we could just move past it.
No, the chest vaginas, they carry on.
3 weeks in a row.
It is weird. We've got a running theme of monsters with holes you can fit yourself in.
Oh.
Yes, man does have a chest pussy, but
It's pretty mid.
he doesn't actually have teeth. He's got a
He just gums it.
He's got a tentacle.
Yep.
Oh my.
Make it any better, Sam.
As is tradition, he has a tentacle.
Only one? Does he at least do double time and wag that thing around?
Yes, he does.
Yeah. You think it couldn't even get any better?
He wags it around quite a bit and murks a random guy by stabbing him in the head and sucking out all his juices through his cranium.
It was pretty cool. Not gonna lie.
The wildest head you've ever seen.
But while this is happening in the security office, the balding guy that no one likes apparently pressed the button to unlock the security gate.
Somehow he gets more unlikable than Hyun over the course of the story.
And that's the thing. I wish there was like a balding guy who wasn't like a complete like idiot or piece of shit. I feel like that's a stereotype that's attached that's like not justified. There are plenty of bald men who are like legit cool.
Yeah. Note to self, write more bald characters who aren't jerks. Uh,
Note to self: keep casting Samuel L. Jackson. Gotcha.
Yes.
Actually, he normally plays jerks. They're just normally pretty suave jerks.
It works.
But Anaki has the wherewithal to be like, close the shutters! Actually, wait, no, don't close the shutters until I drive the monster out with this fire extinguisher! His signature weapon.
Hyuk, probably the most competent person in this entire story, and Pyun's standing right there, so that's actually a high bar.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a high bar, because a lot of these people are not just well, actually, there's a lot of fodder in this crowd, but
I was about to say that's high praise considering the insane nonsense Pyun gets away with in this scene. He does some Olympic level nonsense like in a couple of pages.
Yeah, because Hyuk uses the fire extinguisher to knock the monster mostly outside, and then calls for the shutter to be lowered. But the monster isn't quite out yet. So Pyun runs in and drop kicks the monster out into the street. But oh no, he's outside now. But he manages to scramble up and throw himself in like a full like game-winning touchdown slide under the grate.
Through a like incredible amount of shattered glass.
Uh-huh.
But
yeah, the fact that he's not cut up at all is
The fact that he's not eviscerated really speaks to how tight his abs are.
oh, it's a fun horror action set piece.
Yeah,
Is what it is.
this definitely feels the most B movie.
no, the most B movie is the fact that he slides just far enough so that when the monster comes up to the gate and shoots his tongue
It
out,
stops right at his eye.
his eye is exactly like a millimeter further than the thing can reach, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, the weird proboscis tongue.
Oh, I hate it. By which I mean I love it. By which I mean I hate it.
Yeah, but anyway, that monster decides it needs more friends, so it goes to go get more friends.
Because this is definitely not a zombie apocalypse, guys.
After networking. I like it.
I mean, kind of.
But it's after this initial like chaos action attack where Hyun finally wakes up 2 days later. And I think this is a good time for us to take a quick break to recharge. I mean, Hyun's had 48 hours of sleep. We can take a few minutes of rest here on the pod. So we'll be back after this.
Oh, is that a nosebleed?
I gotta put him down.
All right, I'll get the sword. And welcome back to the show, folks. Where we left our protagonist. He was asleep. The actual heroes of this story were fighting off monsters in the lobby. And now we return to Hyun, whose first instinct after passing out in front of another human being, finding out he woke up 48 hours later, is to sit down and scroll the internet. You know what? Honestly, not same. I think this is one of the few instances where a character is being a total degen where I can go, not same.
Oh.
Yeah, as we established, there's a bit of like a lore exposition dump about what's been going on because we got like weird hints when online was shown that weird stuff was happening, but that's gone from now in the background to the number one thing talked about on the internet that's barely keeping itself together. Because like in all zombie fiction, the infrastructure stays working for as long as it's plot relevant. Psalm
Electricity-
100 or that other thing we read or
Electricity lasts exactly as long as you need it to have contextually relevant revelations.
Oh, unfortunately, the phones don't work. There's this, you try calling somewhere and there's a horrible screeching noise.
and then suddenly a monster comes up and kills you.
Mm-hmm. A very loud beep. I wonder if very loud noises will become relevant as Hyun is scrolling Google and finding that the top trending search result is monsterization, humanity destroyed, collapse of society.
All the standards.
Mhm. Which feels like Twitter bullshit, but considering this is a horror manhwa, it's actually relevant because just in case you forgot that, this guy has a set date for when he plans to off himself.
Just sick.
Yeah. He is scrolling through the forums talking about this monsterization and learns that he has been experiencing the early symptoms of frequent nosebleeds and hearing voices. And there are forum posts of people being like, hey, if you're experiencing these symptoms, just kill yourself. Make it easier for everybody else. And to his credit, Hyun has the wherewithal to be like, wow, that's an insensitive thing to say.
Yeah.
Is that in zombie fiction?
6 of one, half a dozen of another, kinda.
Well, no, here's the thing. It's complicated because on the one hand, like, it is a harsh thing to say, but like, what about the good of society though? Like, you could potentially kill everybody else. And then the other thing I can't help but notice is that being his immediate reaction calls into question how seriously his whole I'm going to commit suicide on a specific date thing was.
I didn't think it was that serious at all, considering we find out his reasoning right here is
was something stupid and petty. Yeah, it's complicated. Hyun can't just be likable.
I don't think we pointed this out earlier, but the reason he chose the specific date of October 25th, it doesn't have any symbolic meaning. He did the math. That's when he runs out of the inheritance money from his dead immediate family.
No, it has symbolic meaning.
Well, there's also another thing where there's a movie coming out that's the end of a series he likes.
Yeah, the money running out isn't really the case because he sold the house. So he has more money than what we get started with. He has a nebulous amount of money that's probably good for a couple of years, but that's not going to matter anymore. So
It's also the fact that he literally has no plan of working, whether that be online or anything. He literally says, I'm just going to
piss this money away and be
die while I still have things like it.
Even in the cases where you could try to construe an argument that maybe he's character developing, he's still awful.
Yeah,
but anyway, he's getting hungry. He needs to go grab some food. So
he needs to grab that ramen that was left outside his door after the cat girl incident.
I do love that's his second mode of thought, is because his original mode of thought is like, it's not technically an emergency scenario, right? Not yet, anyway. So I could just call and have someone deliver me food.
Yes, he essentially wants to DoorDash during this.
And I'm just like, oh man, what a piece of shit. But then I remember all the times I've ordered pizza when I knew a bad thunderstorm was coming. And I'm like, but like, I'm doing it ahead of time, so I don't want to drive in this.
I ordered my Domino's before the snow started falling.
Exactly. The fact they have to drive home in the snow is problematic, but
this guy is already 6 inches deep of blizzard and being like, hey, can I get like some ramen?
Can I get some takeout?
And then the phone screams at him for it.
Which, again, he deserves it. That's when he thinks about the ramen outside.
And we get my least favorite monster because, oh boy, my trypophobia really acted up on this guy. Mushroom Head.
Oh, he's terrifying.
He is a monster that has had the top half of its head seemingly cut off because there is a kind of clean section, revealing the inside is very fungal.
And
he's also burned as well.
It's this series of like, I find it hard to describe, but like he's got like tubes in him.
It's a series of tubes.
And the part that's cut off creates this like kind of hive structure.
Seems friendly. We should let him in.
No, we shouldn't.
Well, unfortunately, he lets himself in.
I hate him. I hate him so
Yeah,
much.
but,
He makes my palms itchy to look at him.
because Hyun, I know we haven't talked about this yet, and as is a normal point of contention on this show, Hyun's not smart.
Mhm.
And if you want any evidence for why he's not smart, man, do I have 2 feats that happen over the next couple of chapters?
Yes, reeling from this.
Oh.
Because we've established this monster has the head cut off, so it has no eyes and it's got some pretty pronounced ears.
So the
So,
fact that it announced, "Hey, I can't see."
Yeah, it keeps announcing.
so what happens is it kind of Hyun opens the door, it turns because it heard, and it manages to get inside his apartment because Hyun is hiding from it. And as it comes in, it closes the door behind. And then once it's in the apartment, it kind of just goes around and then repeatedly just screams out, I can't see, I can't see, I can't see. And we get just an amazing panel from Hyun where he goes, huh, I wonder if it's blind. I'm just like, buddy, I wonder if the thing without eyes that is now 3 times screamed, I can't see. Like,
Buddy, I know
oh,
this guy is blind, but are you deaf?
I mean, Odysseus, this guy is not, and he's not fighting the Cyclops. Like,
Odysseus, another character I'd like to be the protagonist of this story over Hyun.
I would take Oedipus over Hyun.
Look, at least any Greek hero would have the wherewithal to try to outsmart the monsters. I don't think they'd actually survive by doing that because I can absolutely see Odysseus being like, haha, you followed that sound that I created, but I'm over here, and then getting eaten. But
Yeah, because as we established, Hyun was charging his phone, and it makes a little vibration noise when it's full charge. Yeah, a little ring, and the monster then shoots its proboscis tongue out, and it immediately pierces through the phone on the bed. And then there's like a panel of nothing happening, and then it kind of just spirals out in like a series of like
He said his phone.
Oh, did it
It
miss
it
the phone then?
it knocks the phone off because he uses it
Mm.
later on to communicate and, like,
This
Oh,
hear.
yeah, I
thing
guess it
really
does.
this thing really sucks at aiming then.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
it's
does.
blind, in case you didn't know.
I mean,
can't
Hyun doesn't seem to
see!
know.
I can't see. I wonder if it's blind. Man, I can't put my finger on what's different about her car. Ugh, but yeah, so it does this weird kind of like if you've ever seen a sea cucumber, like
Oh god, not the sea cucumber.
it spreads out in like a sphere of like these splitting
Vines.
off, yeah, like splitting off things. It's very veiny and gross. So it's basically like an area of effect. And this entire time, Hyun's been like, okay, maybe if I stab it in the back of the neck, I can succeed. And then it sees that as like, no, I'm just gonna sneak in the bathroom. And then he very quietly opens the bathroom door, closes it, and then there's a sound effect for click, but I guess that's such a quiet click. The monster didn't hear it. I don't know. Whatever. He's in the bathroom now, and he kind of is just waiting there.
This manga makes a lot of use of like kind of lowering the opacity on onomatopoeias to make it be like this is supposed to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the click of the bathroom door is supposed to be him, if this were a movie, like a whole 30 seconds of him very slowly inching his wrist up to close it as slow and quiet as possible.
Mm-hmm. And basically, Hyun's kind of just laying down in the bathroom to wait until he hears the monster leave, and he doesn't. And I'm not sure how long he's expected to actually be in the bathroom. I find it really funny to assume it's been 45 minutes.
I could see it being that short. Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be a day, but I think you're also right in that regard because Hyun is laying in the bathroom being like, I'm hungry. I'm going to drink some water. Oh no, I gotta pee.
I drank too much water. I gotta pee. And then my boy,
He
is-
tries so hard to pee quietly.
I just, it's the stupidest fucking nonsense. though,
Why would
'cause
you do that standing up?
He's peeing in the toilet, standing up. So he aims for the side to make no noise, but he doesn't have the light on, and I don't know why he
And
didn't turn the light on. That doesn't matter.
He's got the light off. He's tired.
It
So like
might be that the light's counter to the fan.
Oh, maybe you're right. But regardless, he can't see. So he's aiming for the side of the bowl. And I'm just like, so he could sit down, or much more importantly, if he's worried about making a noise, he could go in the sink. We know that works.
Male
Like,
privilege.
It's so stupid.
it's so stupid because he gets tired and like kind of zones out while peeing and shifts his stream into the center of the bowl, and he's just staring at himself, dick in hand, pissing in the toilet. It's like, it's so loud.
Is someone there?
And then this
Go.
thing shoots its tongue through the door. It goes past Hyun, hits the mirror, shatters, then explodes out in a radius that just misses Hyun. And I'm like, maybe this thing just sucks. Maybe this is just a bad monster.
It explodes out in a radius that just misses Hyun. There's a few panels where it looks like the explosion could have hit him in the dick, but I don't think that happened. It would have been appropriate if it did, but
Oh, as if you could emasculate Hyun anymore. But yeah, no, yeah, this monster does seem pretty pathetic. Eventually it wanders off, and Hyun is able to retrieve the remaining ramen and sneak back inside.
yeah, he completes the encounter with Mushroom Head, gets his ramen, and that gives him a couple more days of survival. And we have the final encounter of our reading where
First he sees it before he properly encounters it.
I say encounter in the broader sense.
Yeah, because there's one more plot point between that and him actually engaging with the thing.
Because he is continue to be like, well, I ain't going outside, time to scroll the internet. And that's when he sees that his favorite anime is going to have a theatrical release on the day he planned to kill himself, and he's like, maybe I won't. But wait, world has ended.
No, he planned for it. Because,
He planned to watch it and then do it. That's why he picked the date he did.
yeah, because he won the tickets. They did a drawing for fans to see an early release, and he won them. So he's just like, I've got these free tickets to go see the finale of my anime. I can't die before I see that.
Oh, I think I missed that then.
Yeah, his username is BLLK.
I think I missed his specific plan in that regard, because I had thought that it was just that's when he ran out of money, and that's when he was going to do it.
No,
And the anime having its
Yeah, it's even more petty than that.
You know what? I had too much faith in him then.
the problem was he talks about the money and then explains he's picked a day for when he's going to kill himself.
Yeah, there is a level of Kuleshov there.
They're unrelated.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
Like this scene is where it's explained all of that, and like just not really knowing what else to do. I mean, like honestly, just for shits and gigs, he decides to type into the fan chat on the website.
Like literally a cry for help of like, hey, I'm in my apartment thinking about killing myself because I'm trapped here. I got nothing to live for.
Is anyone alive?
Not really going great.
Is anyone alive out there? Yeah, this is stupid. I'm just going to delete that out. Whoa, I got a notification.
He gets a message from Crew.
Preeminent internet discourse.
Because this vibes of like, if you just read the text, it comes off as very hostile and attacking, but I don't know. It reads as like affectionate.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's got that sort of playful ribbing that comes out of message board culture.
Yeah.
Because the guy he's
they're
talking
both
to,
fans. They're both fans of this thing.
They're talking, and the guy he's talking to says how like, yeah, no, I'm planning on killing myself after the release, and I
Well, specifically says I was planning to kill myself on the 25th, and then the guy goes, "Wait, you're planning to do it after you saw the movie? You nerd!" Like, what a hopeless loser.
Your life is fucking pathetic. Your personality is pathetic. Yeah, you too.
And like you can only see Hyun because they've not revealed who Crew is yet. This will become relevant, but like you can see the smile on Hyun's face where like this is you know, like he's vibing with the person on the other end of the keyboard. And you know, they get to the, you know, rather sobering topic of the current situation, talking about how, oh man, I can't stick around for long. We gotta we're forming a party. We're gonna try to get out. It's gonna be tough. There's this monster with eyes and a long neck and bulbous head. It's really weird.
You mean the one that like appeared outside of my apartment window that was really freaky to look at, and so I clipped my curtains shut. Hold on, tell me more about it. Anyway, I've got to leave. I'm gonna go lead a rescue party to get more people. Wait, no, don't go. And Crew has left the chat.
Yeah, Sam, you're really burying the lead there. Yoon hears knocking at his window, and he's just like, huh, I wonder what that could be. Is someone visiting me from the window? And then opens the window to see a monster, and he's just like,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm kind of like, I don't know what you expected this to be.
You are on the 14th floor.
oh, hold on. Do you think it's blind?
Oh my God.
It's got a big fucking eye.
But is it blind?
But is it blind? It's not said one way or the other yet.
I don't want to assume, because you can still have eyes and be blind. We know
Sam,
this.
I think it's really privileged of you to think the number of
Yeah.
eyes you have has anything to do with your status of being blind.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's Hyuk. Hyuk is Crew, which kind of explains why he's such a. I love Hyuk.
I love it so much. He is such a nice boy. You know, constantly smiling, got the Brock face going on IRL, but he is a poster online.
I mean, he's a poster in person on occasion too.
That's his Jungian shadow coming to the forefront.
Hyuk is just a Jungian shadow. Like, of no one in particular. He is just the embodiment of the Jungian shadow.
Yeah. But regardless, after that conversation, Hyun kind of goes back to being a bum, laying down. He watches a fly get caught in a spider's web, and he's just like, yep, nope, just resign to your fate and die. You're gonna die no matter how you struggle. Might as well go out relaxed. And then he just sees the fly break free of the web and fly away. He's like, oh shit, I didn't even know that was possible. Damn it, this might relate to my situation.
Wait, you mean escaping from seemingly impossible circumstances can happen?
If you just put effort in.
I'm going to become a hero and help people and definitely not cause anyone's death. Wait, is that a sound outside?
Wait, if you don't submit to your helplessness and actually listen to your survival instinct, there's a chance?
Ooh, Sam, don't go too far. That's not the lesson he's learned here.
I know that's not the lesson he's learned, but that's the lesson that's trying to be told to him. Because yes, he does hear a sound outside, and he goes to look out his window, and he sees a muscly dude going to climb down a blanket ladder on the floor below. It's just like, and his two kids are just like, wait, Dad, seriously, this
is a bad idea.
Why are you doing, Dad, please, Dad, don't. And he's just like,
don't you know Daddy was in the special forces? This is a quick hop, skip, and a jump for me. I'm immortal.
Dad, I'm really thinking that this is a bad idea. No, just look after your little brother while I'm gone. And that's when, you know, Eye Monster is elongating its neck back up.
And hold on. What happens is Hyun yells out, wait, look down. And then he looks down, but in the same second as Eye Monster coming up and
Look out! He's also like further announced to the Eye Monster that, hey, there are people here. Do not announce your location.
Look, I believe that Hyun had the right idea and was on the right track with this one, but you know, Special Forces dad freaked out at sight of monster, let go of the rope, and fell to his deaths.
Well, he flailed at the sight of the thing, which caused the bed sheets to rip, and
he flailed because someone yelled at him and distracted him from the direction where he needed. So he needed to do a 180 swipe. I don't think Hyun helped at all in this scenario, and
Well, no,
a less generous read, Hyun's responsible for it to some degree.
Expressly, Hyun did not help, but
I don't think he's responsible for the death either, because the monster was going to notice him anyway.
Because if dude just climbed down safe as can be in his own mind, the monster would have noticed him and come up and attacked him.
Yeah, so
I also like when I push people in front of train tracks, they were going to jump anyway. So
I know what you're getting at, but I disagree.
You're fine to be wrong.
You're fine to be wrong.
I don't know what you're getting at, and I also disagree.
I don't know how you can disagree if you don't know what I'm getting at.
One way or another, Special Forces man is dead because he fell 13 fucking stories and went splat. And now the monster is going after the kids because naturally they're screaming their heads off because it's terrifying. And we have Hyun. Several times to this point, there have been instances of him having a spark of heroism in him. Like he made the Swiffer wet jet spear and stepped out to go fight the hungry girl next door. There is the
specifically to help someone who was about to be attacked by her.
Yeah, there's the flashback of him getting beaten up by the bullies, where the leader bully is like, "Oh, even after I've kicked the shit out of you, you still got that defiant look in your eye." And there's been several like build-up moments of Hyun having something in him of like a sense of justice, and this is really the make or break point of that, because it looks like the kids are screaming, "Help us, help us, help us, go away, monster."
Are you going to let children die?
Are you going to let children die? And Hyun looks like he's about to just let it happen. But then we cut to the sight of a computer screen falling and cracking the monster on the head, which, not gonna lie, kind of hardcore.
Well, okay, here's the thing though. One thing that I can't help but notice, the internet had gone out by that point, so it's not like he could have used it anyway. Even in his best of moments, there's always something.
Even in his best moments, he does not do an unalloyed good.
I like how the way the panel is framed. The monitor is there's a hit mark of like white, and then the monitor is falling off to the side from rebounding. But if you just look quickly at the page, it looks like the monitor just completely misses the monster.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a whack sound effect and a strike mark, but yeah, it like the angle of it. Yeah, the angle of it makes it look like it missed.
And that's easy to miss because this manga uses a lot of onomatopoeia.
Also, very Sweet Home to have the monitor just completely whiff.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Whatever way it turns out, it is enough for the monster to stop paying attention to the kids and pay attention to Hyun, who is screaming at it like, "Hey, you pervy peeping motherfucker, come up and fight me."
This is where we leave off this section of reading, because being that it's a webtoon,
it's literally impossible to not end on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, they're all cliffhangers, but we do end on a pretty important point. We see that Hyun is, for the first time since we've met the character, actually trying with the question of not just can he get out of this, but is this a sign of forward character growth, or is he going to slip back into his old ways?
Is he essentially trying to suicide by cop?
And that is Sweet Home.
Yeah.
Indeed, it is. So, entering into the discussion phase, favorite character and favorite monster encounter. I really like Mobster Man.
Yeah.
He is the coolest guy. I know, he's custom designed to be the cool, competent dude in the zombie apocalypse movie. I don't care. I'm easily persuaded. I like him. He's fun. But for my favorite monster encounter, I mean, if I had to speak to my entire experience with Sweet Home, it would be protein. But
he wasn't in this section, sadly.
He wasn't in this section. I really do like the initial encounter with Hungry Girl, it plays to a lot of the manhwa's strengths. It does the paneling to emulate horror film camera work. It plays off of your questions of like, so what's actually happening, right up until, she becomes the horrible blood monster. And then it gets into the tension of, oh no, Rocker Girl is rocking out. She's attracted the monster. Now what do we do? It's a very efficient horror sequence, and I like it a lot for that because it hits all the appropriate notes. Jake, how about you? Favorite character and favorite monster encounter?
Hyuk. Hyuk is the best character in this series, easily. I freaking love Hyuk. I love I love Hyuk for all of the things that he does later. And in all honesty, Hyuk is a character who, like, even in this section, this is just Hyuk, and he's awesome, and he's the good kind of poster, and the world needs more of him. He gets complicated later because everybody gets complicated because horror series, but just I like all of the side characters. But a guy who's just like, everybody's freaking out about the situation. Don't worry, I'll go grab the fire extinguisher. It's a locked door. Why are you grabbing the pong? And just with a smile the entire time. Like, how can you not love him? Favorite monster encounter. I really like the initial encounter with the girl next door. But I think I'm gonna go with the tube tongue guy.
Proboscis Man.
It's a fun action set piece, horror action set piece. It's cheesy. He dives back under the shutter just in time, and then is a millimeter away from getting stabbed, and the monster could just stab his leg and pull him closer, and that doesn't happen for some reason. But it's a B movie moment of a horror action scene, and I like it for what it is.
All right. Matt, how about you?
I'm going to be honest. A lot of the characters don't really have a lot of room to shine here other than Hyun. Like, basically, we get introduced to a bunch of people, but don't actually get to spend a lot of time with them. So I think I'm going to have to go with Hyun is the only real character.
Everyone else is fake.
Yeah, everyone else. He's in a coma.
Yes. It turns out this is another episode of General Hospital.
I'm going to save you 145 chapters. It turns out he was in a coma the entire time. He just he took some sleeping pills after his mom left. They actually didn't even die in that car crash. They just come home.
Yeah. That was the twist that I called when I was reading it initially.
But yeah, and then favorite encounter, I got to go with him pissing in the bathroom in the dark and causing the monster to attack him. And then that monster doesn't do shit with its incredible proboscis shot. But yeah. The fact it just misses Hyun because the plot needs to happen. Yeah, those are my picks.
All right, and Jay, how about you?
I have to say Hyuk is the same.
Yeah.
He was the only thing that made it readable because I already hated the main character and wanted him to seriously get some help. But knowing the circumstances, yeah.
Hyuk for protagonist.
Yes, essentially. My favorite encounter had to I think I'm leaning towards the mushroom head just because the entire thing was just that was the most fleshed out encounter for me. So I mean obviously Catgirl is a close second, but I think the one where you literally had a monster closed into your apartment, so you were trapped in the bathroom, that kind of tension to not make noise.
It doesn't get much more visceral than that.
Yes. Especially knowing what its I guess attack is quite literally one in a million, which of course because he's protagonist he's hit
for
some reason. But it's just I'm screwed if that touches me.
One moment I like from that encounter, we did mention it, but we briefly glossed over it. That's the most explicit example in our reading of, maybe I can fight back against this. No, I cannot. I have made a terrible mistake and I'm not going to do that.
Yes.
General thoughts on the monsters. So
let me give you my theory.
Can you even have a theory? Is that allowed?
Yeah, I don't worry, Jacob. I'll take this. Here's my thoughts on the monsters.
So obviously the two of us are excluded from this section.
I mean, given what we've seen from the encounter that Hyun has had with the voice in his head, it feels like some sort of awakening of the inner instinct, a suppression of social constructs, or the social instinct, and it feels incredibly destructive in that case. It's like you are submitting to your own desires to the detriment of everyone else, which causes the collapse. And Hyun fighting against that is going to be the sort of symbolic struggle of his desire to just be a shut-in neat, and the actual healthy thing of going out and interacting with the other survivors and working towards the better future of getting out of this alive. So I think that Hyun's personal monsterization is going to be a counteractive force going forward for his ability to work with everybody else, for his power to cooperate.
Jay, do you have any ideas on the nature of the monsters, the story moving forward?
Now that you think about it, I think the monsters are. First of all, I do acknowledge that the monsters are real. I think that the monsters, like almost like a trope, are a basis of your subconscious. Like that's kind of how they manifest. Which is going to be interesting to kind of explore the different types of monsters that will crop up and sort of, I guess, if we get any exposure to who the monsters were before they became monsters, that would be interesting. Um, as for like what's going on in the world, I honestly don't know. I want to say that it was like some kind of psychological phenomenon, perhaps related to, I don't even know, because I want to like pin it like uncharacteristically on social media or like something on the internet, but I'm like, no, I don't think it is.
That is an interesting thought.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like where this is going. Um aside again from the main character.
Don't worry, he gets better, or does he?
I mean, it kind of is. I feel like there's definitely some very heavy-handed foreshadowing on he's eventually going to monsterify somehow.
For example, him exhibiting all of the symptoms of monsterization.
Oh, but they also like cut away to this thing that was like a tumor inside of him. So I mean, like, yeah, yeah.
Oh.
No one can ever say manhwa are subtle.
So those are my predictions.
Jokes aside, one thing I wanted to mention in this section is it's really funny to me the lines that one draws in the category of willing suspension of disbelief, because this is essentially a zombie story. It is framed that way, it is designed that way, but the creatures aren't, like, they're not zombies, they're monsters. Like, there's really no other way of describing them. They're, each of them are unique. They have overwhelming individual power is a big difference between zombies and these things. And I don't know, something about the monsters, like the tropes of zombie fiction tend to really tick me off and turn me away a lot of times. And something about the difference in the way that the antagonists, as it were, are presented, the confounding force that sets the plot in motion, it made me enjoy this type of story a lot more because they weren't zombies. I know it's because I'm giving the story a little bit more like credit and leeway, and reading it on it, reading it the way it wants to be read, so to say. Which it's something I know I don't do with zombie fiction. I tend to be overly critical and nitpicky with that sort of thing. So,
Jake, since you've finished the entire manhwa, I don't think "would you continue reading" is an appropriate question.
I mean, I'd read it again.
That is an answer.
Seeing all of the dead characters, which ones could I be talking about, alive again was great. So
personally, I think I would continue reading. Mostly it's like 50-50 split between my desire to go back to where I was before and continue on, and this reigniting the initial curiosity I had about the series. So, in a word, yes, I would. Matt, how about you?
I mean, I'd made it almost to the end, and I never actually finished the series, so that should tell you something. The one thing I'll take away is on this reread, I got hit really by the suspense, and when it's in a scene that actually deserves it, that is really cool. They do a lot of ending chapters on that build up for then it to be a false positive, and that's cool if you do that sparingly, but if it keeps happening, it's like clear what you're doing. I had like weird trauma flashbacks, to not make light of that, but like that's the vibe I got when one of our chapters had literally like 15-20 pages of recap of like an entire scene that happened at the previous one was then at the beginning of the next one. And that's just webtoon nonsense. And
Well, yeah, when you're reading that sort of thing, week to week or bi-weekly, you don't notice it as much as when you read it compiled like this. It's a bit of a barrier.
yeah. And especially if that keeps happening, or it's a slog. And a lot of my original reason I forced myself through this series was I was interested in the lore and stuff. And now that I've got a vague idea of what that was, I kind of have no interest to put myself through the physical act of reading it again. I This is the same thing I always say with webtoons, though, is I really don't like the format, and I think the format hinders what could otherwise be really smooth storytelling.
Like perhaps if Sweet Home was released in like a graphic novel version, if it was edited to take away that sort of scroll aspect.
Or if maybe there was some kind of video form of Sweet Home that may even have real actors that are formatted into easily digestible 45-minute episodes that could be on some kind of streaming service like Netflix.
Some sort of program that might be viewed during a no read November kind of situation.
I don't remember if it's a TV series or a movie, but
at this point we're running out of movies, so we need to start expanding. Anyway, Jay, would you continue reading?
So about that, so I actually did not like how this reading ended, so I continued to read past it. So,
welcome to Webtoon.
Yes, I would.
All right.
I mentioned this in the beginning, but it bears repeating because it's one of the biggest things about Sweet Home and the reason I marathoned the series when it was initially coming out. The sort of the morbid curiosity is there are very few series that are a better ascribed the phrase morbid curiosity than Sweet Home. It makes you want to keep scrolling. And in that way, I think it uses the webtoon format well, recap chunks notwithstanding. So yeah, it can be gripping when you get into it.
Thank you once again for tuning into the Over Manga Cast. As always, you can find us on all of your social medias where we are at Over Manga Cast.
You can also check us out on YouTube, where you can like, comment, and subscribe. Fulfill your deepest inner desires to catch up on our backlog, or go over to overmangacast.com. The YouTube is on a 2-week delay, so you can get the newest episodes there. You can even comment on episodes, give us suggestions, anything that you can imagine.
We also appreciate reviews in any and all forms, so go ahead on your podcatcher of choice. I don't actually know where you put podcast reviews anymore. Or you can just, email us overmangacast@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. We love recommendations. Sweet Home was also a recommendation. But also Jacob wanted to read it, so that's how it goes. At this point, everything we do is vaguely a recommendation from somewhere, basically. But tell us to read Dragon Ball Super. Keep doing it. We'll do it.
Well, one way or another, we are not reading Dragon Ball Super next week. Instead, we are going to be reading Miyotoko-chan. We're going to be reading chapters 1 through 15. So, for all of your spooky, ghosty goodness here at the last week of October, read that if you're keeping up with the show, and we'll see you next Thursday. Good night, everybody.
Good night. You're in for a fright.
See, guys, this is why we have a no nosebleed policy. Now we got to kill Jacob. We got to get someone else on for the next episode now. Like,